Hola guys, Happy New Year and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about common mistakes that people make at the gym. Before we start, as always guys, like and subscribe is a New Year's present for me. Another thing, for any online coaching plan, one-to-one plans, link in bio. If you want to start the new year, new you, as cringy as it sounds, now is the time to start, because you can't wait until the last months just before summer, okay? Starting as soon as possible is crucial because it takes a couple of months to develop that juicy look, okay? So link in the description below to get a free call and to discuss everything about your goals and about you, okay? So anyway, without any further ado, let's just go and I will show you all the different common mistakes that people make. I'll try to be as short as I can, because I know that you guys always say that I talk too much. So let's go now. So what I'm going to go over today is some mistakes that people can make that are not that obvious and some that are very obvious. So little tips for some advanced and beginners at the same time. So first thing that not many people might know is your shoes. Okay, I just want you to pay attention to your shoes. So you want to pick, when you're squatting, possibly a flat surface, or something better, like anything that could be better is like going barefoot. So just wearing your socks, something that I personally do not like doing, but if you do not mind, it's actually better to squat barefoot with your socks on, just because the way your foot is planted, it will allow you to have more stability on the floor, okay? And some shoes, because of how narrow they are, okay? So these shoes are actually quite wide, as you can see, so they're all right. But when you have a lot of weight on your toes and you're squatting down, okay, and your shoes are really, really narrow, okay, they really limit the movement, and they also mess up with the whole stability of the squat. So make sure you don't use really narrow shoes. And another thing, if you do, just take them off. It's just easier, okay? It'll just make your life so much better, okay? Just because when you squat, what is just best to do is literally plant your feet on the floor, okay? And it's almost like you're doing this sort of, it's just very weird to explain, but with your feet, it's almost like, so imagine there's your foot. I don't want to take my shoes off now because it's a bit weird, there's people here, right? So imagine that you just do this movement, almost like you're gripping the floor with the plant of your feet, okay? So that's why if you have a shoe that is literally limiting that, you won't be able to do that, and your squats will not feel as stable. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, that is not also as obvious as well. When someone squats, and this is something that you can only notice sometimes, either if someone else is watching you, okay, from behind, or sometimes if you want to maybe film yourself from behind so you can re-watch yourself and see if you're making this common mistake, which is when you go down, because some people, do remember in my previous videos that I said some people prefer a narrow stance to a wider stance, okay? So it's okay to choose whichever stance you like according to you. Remember, everyone is different. You can choose a narrow stance, a wider stance, toes pointing outwards or not. There is not one set stance that you say you just applies to everyone, okay? So that being said, I want you to make sure that if you use a wider stance, and especially if you're rotating your feet outward, I don't want you to let your knees cave in, which is a typical mistake that a lot of squatters do, okay? So I'll just show you from behind how it looks, okay? Someone might be having obviously a load, okay? So you're going down and you notice this slightly. This will happen especially when you're using a very, very heavy load. Your knees will tend to cave in slightly, and you don't want basically this not to be vertical. You always want your shins to be vertical as you squat down, okay? So I'll show you again with the bar. Obviously, let's pretend there is a lot of weight on for demonstration purposes. I'm not going to do it with the weight because it's just easier, okay? Just like, come on. So, bar on. You see what's happening here? This is slightly inward. My calves basically and shins should be perfectly perpendicular, okay, and vertical. Third common mistake when you're squatting, because people are told to squat ass to grass, but some people simply cannot because of genetics, okay? Some people are not genetically made to squat ass to grass. So what will happen as well, due to range of motion being very limited, okay? Do you know what will happen? You'll butt wing. What is a butt wing? We talked about this before. Basically, you see how my spine is rounding up at the bottom, okay? Your spine should always be neutral. So, for me, for my genetics, for my mobility, I cannot go further than this. So if I go anything lower, my spine will start rounding up. You see, it's like you're winking almost. Your butt is winking. That's why it's called the butt wink. There's three main things for your squats. On to the next one. On to hip thrust category, not just the hip thrust, but in particular we're going to be talking about the single leg hip thrust. Why is it good? It's a great variation if you want to mix it up sometimes, especially if you're a bit more advanced. If you're a beginner, I'd recommend first practicing with a bilateral hip thrust first. First thing I want you to notice, I've talked about this before, the height of the bench. If it's too high and you've got a lot of weight on, or weight in general, you're gonna have to climb up. So you see how short I am in comparison to this. So I'm gonna have to physically climb up to be in position. And if I've got a lot of weight, for example, a bar, you'll be harder. So it's best to use a lower elevation, like a box, which is just perfect for me. So all I have to do is just literally lean. I don't have to climb up, and I'll be ready already. You see, I'm not climbing up. So, but anyway, the exercise that I wanted to show you was the single leg hip thrust, right? So with the hip thrust, in general, you're taught, and you must have seen it a lot online anyway, or if you don't know, I'll tell you now. With the bilateral hip thrust, so using both of the legs planted on the floor, you want to be looking forward normally. That is the most common version, okay? So just like this. With the single leg hip thrust, what a lot of people tend to do is to apply the same technique. So literally, leg up and looking forward this way. But that's not the case. With single leg hip thrust, you have to actually look to the ceiling. I don't want you to keep looking forward, just because with a single leg hip thrust, the range of motion will be limited. And you, by doing this, you'll limit it even more. But it's just easier instead to just look up and go all the way down and achieve a fuller range of motion. So single leg hip thrust, feel free to look all the way up, okay? And follow the movement. Really nice and simple, okay? Next, RDLs, aka deadlifts, okay? Romanian deadlifts. Great exercise for a posterior chain, not just to isolate your glutes. Deadlifts in general are not the best exercises for your glutes, okay? They're great compound exercise. If I had to pick the best exercise for glutes, I would pick hip thrusts and a single leg variation. So either lunges or split squats, for example, anything like this. This I will just normally use as an accessory. I will probably use it as intra-set. So I will do a superset with one of these. However, some people really, really like deadlifts and they include them in their programs, and that's absolutely fine. As I said, everyone is always different. Personally for me, I do not tend to include a lot of deadlifts into my own programs for myself, okay? Just because I don't like them and I don't think they're so effective, okay? Still good for your glutes, but I think there are better exercises as well. So remember, the rule is with this kind of exercise is to keep your spine neutral. I want you to look at my spine now from the side, okay? So I'll just move my hair as well so you can see even better. If I go all the way down, you see what's happening over here? My spine here is slightly rounding up. And that's fine if I'm using a little bit of weight, but as I start going heavier, you start progressing up. This will add a lot of pressure over here, okay? So the best way to do this is not to go as slow, because actually some people, because obviously you're taught you have to go full range of motion, but for some exercises, if it causes you to round your spine or anything like this, then you just have to stop a little bit earlier. So let's watch myself as well. You want to follow the, your eye gaze wants to follow the movement, so as you descend down, I want you to look down, so that's why it's important not to look at yourself in the mirror when you do this, because you'll tend to stress your cervical spine, okay? So if you want to check your form after, it's just easier either to have, again, someone looking looking over your form, or just recording yourself and then doing it after home, okay? Just to make sure. But yeah, so that's it. That's how far I can go before I start curving and bending my spine. So you don't want to go all the way up. And then a big one, the squeeze. No squeezing, both for squats and for deadlifts. I don't want you to squeeze. Again, for exactly the same reason, because your spine will bend and overextend this way. So just stop before, forget about the squeezing. The best time is when you stretch the muscles rather than when you contract them, okay? So again, this is as far I can go. And that's it. Stop there. Next exercise, the lovely beloved abduction machine. So, right, I used to be guilty of making this mistake myself in the past because, I don't know, you've seen it a lot on Instagram and YouTube, so you might think, yeah, well, if she's doing it, then I'm gonna do it as well. It's like this weird variations. Like, you must have seen me doing it at the beginning of my I don't even know how I used to do it, but you see like a lot of people doing it, like a reversed thingy, which is we can put your spine again in a really awkward position and cause problems later, apart from the fact that I can barely fit in. But the rule is, as I said before, to maintain your spine as straight as possible. Although anatomically speaking, our spine has got a natural S-curve. But what I want to say is that I don't want you to round it up, hyperextend it or anything like that, because anything that will put your spine in this position that is unnatural will tend to cause lower back problems or pain later, okay? So the best way to use the abductor machine is to simply just sitting on it and opening your legs, as weirdly as it sounds. I'm happy for you to lean forward a little bit, as long as you're leaning forward will not cause over here. You see what's happening over here? If I go 2, 2, 2 down, you see what's happening? My spine is rounding, okay? So this is the most forward that I can lean on without compromising my spine, okay? So just really nice and simple. If you want to lean, you can lean. Otherwise, you can also lean back. Exactly the same thing, because your spine will still remain straight when you do these things. So just really nice and simple. And that's it really for me. Yeah, these are just quick tips that you can apply that a lot of people, I've actually seen a lot of people making this mistake. So let me know if you found this useful, if you want more videos like this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, if you're looking for a coach or someone that can help you, and if you're unsure about the form, you don't know how to perform certain exercises, I do offer one-to-one, as I said before, support, where all my clients actually send me videos of them performing the exercise, and then they send it to me and I give them feedback. So if they're not sure about how to perform a certain exercise, which by the way is all my planners got video demonstrations that they're adapted to you as an individual and make it personalized to you. But there is still some clients that say, you know, Chiara, I'm still not really sure about this. Can I send you a video of how to perform it? And they can absolutely do that. And that's how I help them step by step to achieve their goals. If you want to do the same, link in the description below for my online coaching plan. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you very soon.